This is the final coat of lacquer drying. See, that bubble maple is really starting to pop with the figure. Alright guys, welcome back to another video. If you're new to the channel and you haven't watched any of my videos, my name is Zach and I'm a cabinet builder, but on this channel I'm uploading videos of me building this puzzle box I'm working on. So here's how far I've got on it so far. This is the base of the puzzle box, and that part that I just showed you that I had coated in lacquer, that sits on top here as the second floor. So if you want to see how I did all this, I have videos up on my channel from the very bottom all the way up of all the drawers of how I made it all. And I also have how I made this really cool sliding tile puzzle box. So you actually have to get one of these tiles out and it slides all the way around like a puzzle to open the lid. But that's not what we're talking about in this video. For this video, we're going to be working on the base for the second layer. This is actually going to be the third or fourth video on this. And we're getting pretty close to being able to glue on the frame parts.
1 hour later.
Alright, so I sprayed the face part and the bottom of it with lacquer. This side of lacquer is still a little bit green, so I put a couple screws. That way I can work on this and it sit flat without me irritating the lacquer underneath because it hasn't fully cured. So as you can see, I have all of my mortises drilled all the way around, and that is for these frame pieces, like on the base. These all will go all the way around. So I have every one of them. I think there's like 14 of them. But they go all the way around, and then in the back of them they have this slot, and that is for the interior walls to tie into them. And I have all the interior walls right here. See, they've got the bubble maple on it. And all these will go in those cracks. See, they're 1/2 inch. The dados on the base of that are only 1/4 inch, so I have to run a table saw on either side and make an 1/8 of an inch tongue to fit into there. But all of these interior walls join together. So I was going to start with cutting all of the interior walls to length and getting all the joinery cut for them, but I can't accurately cut them to length without the frame parts being glued all the way around, because you measure from the frame piece to this crack, and if that frame piece, when it's glued on, is set back even a 32nd of an inch, that wall will be too tight, because I'm making everything on this as precise as I possibly can. Like 60/4 is the most I'm letting things be off. So if this is back a 32nd of an inch, this wall will be too tight, and then I'll have to deal with trying to cut it and then dadoing it again. And I don't want to go through all that, so I'm going to start by gluing all of the frame pieces on. And I think I can do that because I have all of my mortising done on the interior of this. So these are for some mechanisms, and you can't get the mortise machine in there to do that when all of the walls frame pieces are glued on. So I had to do all that before I glued the frame pieces on, or I already would have done them. But I'm very confident now that I am ready to glue these on, and if anything happens where I still need to get to the interior, I'll just have to do it with a chisel or something. And now I'm just sanding all the frame pieces with this 220 grit sandpaper, getting them all slick, getting all the scratches out of them. And I have to do this to every single one, so it's actually going to take me a while. Alright, I just glued the 4 corners for now. And then once they're dry, I'll glue everything else. I kind of got to do it in settings because it's hard to fit all the clamps around it and make sure everything's square. So I'll probably, after they're dry, do a side, glue it, let it dry, and then I'll do this side, and I'll do this side, and so on and so forth until I get all the way around. But everything's perfectly square, and this way, with the clamp sitting like this, I can kind of move the clamp, the bottom of the clamp, out or in if I need to make this corner piece as square as it needs to be, and it kind of helps me make sure I keep it square. So if this frame piece was sticking out too far. Then I could just take the clamp and move the bottom of it this way a little bit, and that would pull that frame piece in to where it's square while the glue dries, and once that glue dries, it's not moving. And this is the technique I've made for clamping on the middle ones, because they're a lot harder than the corners for some reason to get square. So I take 2 blocks of wood that I've cut with the saw, and I've made them as perfectly square as I can possibly get them, and I clamp them on either side of this piece, and they got to be tight down to the floor. That way when this clamp clamps the frame part down, it is not able to move this way. It can just go straight down because the blocks are tight down and they're tightened onto the frame piece. They don't allow the frame piece to move any. Now this direction is a bit harder. So far, this one here is staying perfectly square right now, the way it is, without anything on it. But if it isn't square, then I will also take a block and put on the back side and clamp down. So it takes quite a while to do all of them. When I did the base, it took me about 2 days of on and off, clamping the stuff up, leaving it for a couple hours, and then coming back and clamping up a couple more. So it's getting pretty late though, so I'm gonna probably just leave this one overnight. I might put this one in also, and then come back tomorrow and finish off the rest of them.
The next day.
Alright, I got every other one glued on, and I kind of got carried away and forgot about videoing. And I stopped myself, and I thought I ought to video the very last one at least. So, you can see I've got the miter filled with glue. I got a big glue on this. And all I'm doing is pushing that down into the hole. Get a bit of squeeze out. And then I'm checking it for square this way to make sure it's square, and if it's not, I can just move it a little bit, try and twist it, because this is where the drawer goes in. It has to be very square that direction. And then I just put these blocks on either side, put a clamp on it, and then for ones like this one, which just doesn't want to stay square in any direction when you clamp it, I've got to put 50 clamps around it. So I've got the both blocks on either side, put a clamp down on this one, put a clamp across both blocks. Then I've got a block going on the back to keep it square this way. That's clamped down. Then I clamp that block down so that block can't move when I clamp the whole piece down. And then finally I can put this clamp down, clamping it down. So you can see how much turmoil I'm going through to get all of these glued down. But yeah, there you go. I've got them all glued. Gotta let this sit about 40 minutes and then take all the clamps off, because I don't want my blocks to dry all night, because then they'll be dried to the puzzle box and that will suck. So I'm gonna let this dry, take it off, and then let it all sit till morning, let the glue cure completely, and then I can start working on the interior walls.
Tomorrow.
Alright, so I got the bottom done on all of them. So they slip into the dado perfectly, and then when they go up against the frame parts, they're just barely, you can just barely feel that they're not flush. They're a little bit that way, just a bit. And that way, after I put lacquer on this and it's all finished up, it doesn't stick out further. And here they are. I got them all fitting. There's a bit of a gap here at the top, but things will have to be clamped together, but everything's square, so when the clamps pull it all together, they're going to pull it all square. So every one of these are notched in one another. This one's notched into that one. That one's notched into that one. You get the idea all the way around. Okay, so I've kind of figured out a way to do the idea I had. So in this drawer has to pop out when you push down the top panel. And I was originally thinking about kind of making a pin that comes out here, similar to what I did in this part right here in the base of the puzzle box. So you can see that pin just is spring powered. got a spring inside of that pipe there, and that is what pushes this drawer out. But I didn't really want people to be able to see this spring sticking out in any other drawers. So what I've thought of doing, as you can see here, I've cut out a slice of wood off of both sides. And that is so, this is not the piece I'm using, but say this is a piece that I veneered in the same interior veneer, and it's big enough that it doesn't fit in between these, but it fits in here. So when it gets up to here, it can't move no further. So I have that there, and then I use a spring in the back here, and that spring will be hidden. No one will ever see this, but that spring will be connected to this panel. Will be able to push back when the drawer is inserted, and then when the latch is pressed in, this will allow the drawer to push forward, and the spring will slide this panel forward, and the drawer will be lengthwise about to here. That way, the drawer will, when the drawer is closed, it'll be pushing this under spring pressure. When the drawer is released, this will push out, and then when they pull the drawer out, all they'll see is just a flat back panel, and they won't be able to see any springs sticking out. Just got this side finished. So this is the one I was talking about, the first one I cut, but this drawer here has a pin that comes out of the side of it, and it'll run. I also have to cut this slot in this one, and that pin will run through and stop on this drawer, so this drawer has to come out, and then that pin sticking out of the drawer will be able to come, and eventually will stop against this frame part, so the drawer won't come all the way out. And now this one's cut, so you can see that notch right there. That way that pin coming out of that drawer can just slide through this, and then will butt against this drawer that'll be all the way in. Alright, now the final bit of messing with these sides that I have to do before I can coat them in lacquer. For this one, oh I'm sorry, not this one. This one, where it goes right here. So you see this, well that is like a little arm that reaches up, and there's a pin that comes through this end, and it comes down like an L shape, and then comes back up through here, and it's all connected. So when you push this end down, it's also pushing this end down, which will release the drawer. But to do that, I have to have a steel pipe that runs all the way through this, and it has to be perfectly straight. And as you can see, I need a 3/8 inch pipe, so that's only leaving me a 1/16 on either side, and if I come through my veneer, I'm screwed because I don't have any veneer left, and that would really suck if I came through my veneer on one side. So what I'm doing is I've got a pocket hole bit because it's 3/8 of an inch, but this one is brand new and it is insanely sharp. I've already drilled 3/4 of an inch, and I've only been spinning it by hand for about 15 seconds. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drill this whole thing by hand because it's way slower, and I can feel the edges to make sure I don't come out. And if I feel it bulging on the veneer any, I'll know that I'm getting too close to the edge. Alright, got the metal in, got it all slicked up. See, all the way through, and then right at the very end, that hole tapers down. And I've glued up this latch here. This is going to be the latch that sits right here, goes in and out. I'm just veneering some of that bubble maple onto the faces of it so that you can't see it under here, and you can't see much of a difference on the top either when it's sticking out, so it looks the same as the floor. I made it out of poplar. I was going to use maple or wingay, but I didn't really want it to move a lot, and I've made small things out of maple before, and after a while it starts to warp really bad. So I was hoping maybe this poplar won't have as much movement to it as the maple does. and maybe it won't warp when it does dry a little bit. But poplar is a really popular wood to veneer to, so I think it'll be okay. Okay, here's the latch mechanism that I have. This isn't glued in here yet. That comes out. So this pin comes all the way through here from the top in that metal pipe that we put in. And there's a spring in there. You can hear it. Well, that comes out and it will go into this hole here. So as you can see, when I push this pin here, that comes down, and this isn't even glued. That's just so tight that it is fitting very well. You can see it's connected to that, so it's pushing that down when this is pushed down, and that will release the drawer when the drawer is there. I'm just trying to get as much as I can done while I'm waiting on these. I'm waiting for these interior walls to dry. I tried to take this clamp off about 20 minutes ago, and this popped off because the glue wasn't dry completely. So I'm just going to let, this glue do its thing, let it sit for a good hour before I take it apart. And I've got one wall left to do. And then when that's all done, I can start gluing together some mechanisms that'll be going in this. Alright, so you can see all the walls I got glued in. They turned out real good. All very square. And you can see this mechanism got all dried. It works perfectly. It don't go all the way down quite yet because this drawer here is in the way, so you have to push this drawer out of the way to be able to unlock this drawer, so get this out of the way. And you can see now that goes all the way down, and the drawer will pop out then, and then when this drawer is closed, the pin won't go down all the way.